dead. He's all punk rock.
I'm not dead!
Hey, what's up? Happy Tuesday. It's Tuesday. I haven't shot a video on a Tuesday in a while, or during the week, as I'm usually working, but I'm on vacation this week. Welcome back to Ground Zero Salem. I'm Pat. Yeah, I'm on vacation, little staycation. The better half is down in Florida on a business thing, so I'm here at home, keeping an eye on things, trying to get a few things done around the house. My son's in daycare till 4:30, so maybe I'll do a bunch of these, hopefully. This is a response video. Before I get into it, we're listening to Mortal Way of Live by Sodom, which is the apropos thing to play in the background, as this is a video about live records, started by Matthew Jones of The Dark Path. Good topic. I can't see that it wouldn't have been covered before, like sometime on YouTube record collector channels, but it's specifically about metal, in my case, like some hardcore and punk. It's a good one. You know, there's a certain rawness that can be captured on live records, give you that live feel, and also sometimes bands have way better chops than when they recorded their early records, which is the case with Mortal Way of Live, and it captures that really well. Sometimes you can get superior kind of sound and quality and playing out of live records. Not to say that Obsessed with Cruelty and Obsessed by Cruelty, I always screw that up. Obsessed by Cruelty and In the Sign of Evil aren't like perfect records in their own right, kind of, you know, inspiring a lot of second wave black metal by how raw they were and crazy they sounded and barbaric and all that kind of stuff. It is cool to hear those songs on this kind of tightened up and you know, with really precise drumming, double bass and stuff like that. Outbreak of Evil is a good one on here. It sounds like a Motorhead song. Also, Iron Fist is covered, so there is a Motorhead song on here. The only thing I don't like about this and the Venom record I'm going to talk about are the lengthy solos, whether they're drum solos, guitar solos, bass solos. I'm just not interested in that kind of thing, you know? I'm just, I don't know, too punk or something. Like, I don't care. Can't really sit through it. I just fast forward it. But yeah, this is cool. It came out in RC in 1988, after Persecution Mania, An Expressive Sodomy, before Agent Orange. So that's the era of Sodom. If you like that Teutonic thrash, you cannot go wrong with this record. I need to listen to it more. You know, I spin it like once a year, and I'm always very impressed by it. You know, I need to work it into my rotation a little bit more. Speaking of stuff that I need to listen to more, I bought this Holocaust live CD over 10 years ago. I've only listened to it a handful of times. I've been over before about how I'm kind of hit or miss with some new wave of British heavy metal stuff. You know, I kind of dislike the more rocky, cock rocky side of things that's more like AC/DC inspired, which is weird because I love AC/DC. There's an AC/DC record in this pile too. But something about a lot of bands just doing more of that hard rock side of it, kind of the more mid-paced, fist in the air stuff. I'd rather listen to stuff that's a little bit more proto speed metal or whatever. But this is a great sounding live record, and even the more rock and roll leaning songs are quite fucking good. And of course on this you've got The Small Hours, which was popularized by Metallica when they covered it on Garage Days in '86. Garage Days revisited, and the original's not too far off from the cover in its ferocity. There's the beginning kind of stompy riff is a little bit faster, a little bit more peppy, you know, less doomy or foreboding than the way Metallica did it. But that fast part fucking rips, and there's a lot of good songs on here, like Smoking Valves is a hot one. They do kind of a Slade thing here, and like it's a song title that's like a bunch of words mashed together that sounds like British slang or something. You're making your rut, one word. But yeah, I mean, I've listened to the first album, I think it's The Nightcomers, I think that's what it's called, and it's pretty good. I mean, it's, you know, pretty much top shelf new wave of British heavy metal. It's certainly up there with a lot of people's favorites, but the playing sounds better. Even the recording sounds better, in my opinion. So I need to spin that more. Up next, Agnostic Front, Last Warning. Since I've talked about Live at CBGB's numerous times, and Live at CBGB's is such an important record to me. It was probably one of the first hardcore records that was taped for me in 7th grade. It's a great early best of live, awesome recording, awesome stage banter. I thought I'd talk about this one, which I like a great deal as well. This came out at the end of round 1, Agnostic Front. They broke up in 94, I think. And yeah, this came out in 93. They broke up 93, 94. This is their supposed last show before they got back together in 97 or 98, I want to say, with kind of a different sound that was like their early record, but a little bit more catchy street punk kind of thing. This has all the hits from the first 3 records, like the first Live at CBGB's has, but it also has a lot of songs off of One Voice, which is just like such a pioneering early 90s AF record. You could hear where they were going. A few of the members were going to go with the Madball material they did. A lot of the guys ended up in the first lineup of Madball, including Vinny Stigma. But guitarist Matt Henderson had this really unique for the time kind of pioneering guitar style that certainly took a lot of influence from heavy metal and thrash, but it was a lot more kind of stripped down and paced in a certain way that just sounded mean, not nearly as technical. It was a little bit more like basic style riffing, but was infectious and super catchy and groovy. If you know Madball's sound at all, you can definitely hear it in the last Agnostic Front record they did before they broke up, which is One Voice. So a little bit more rough around the edges sounding than Live at CBGB's this one. It's a little bit more kind of noisy and crazy sounding. There's more bleed over from the crowd, I feel like. But that really captures the energy of the moment. You know, this was supposed to be their last gig. Great collage there of the madness at CBGB. And as a bonus, you have the United Blood 7-inch, which was their first 7-inch, kind of tacked on the end here, which is a nice thing to have for historical purposes. So coming up next is a member of the 3 Format Club for me. This is Venom, Eine, kleine Nachtmusik. I got it on cassette. This is just titled Live in Concert, but it's the same recording. I have it on CD. CD's seen better days. I think at one point I spilled something on it by mistake. I hope it was beer. That'd be appropriate. And just last year, I picked up a nice Record Store Day reissued double LP of it. Nice gatefold. Oh, God. Nothing more black metal than katanas and top hats and cigars. Fucking awesome. Yeah, and in a lot of cases, I feel like, especially the Welcome to Hell material is played better on this. It's got a great live sound, super in your face. I remember getting this as a kid and being bummed out by how long the intro was. It doesn't bother me now, but to this day, with a lot of like occult metal and spooky, scary black and death metal and stuff, I fast forward past intros. I fucking hate them. There's also, I think, a Kronos bass solo on here. Guitar solo by Mantis. Yeah, Kronos bass solo. No drum solo? Yeah, no drum solo. Yeah, that stuff is just totally skippable. The live version of Countess Bathory is great. They just sound like they're simmering to a boil on it, and that great riff, that sort of very simple neo-classical riff on it sounds great. Witching Hour rips on this. Yeah, it's just a live best of that's fucking awesome. Bloodlust, Nightmare, Die Hard, all the hits for the kids. So for something a little different, I threw this on the other night because I did listen to it a bunch when I got it. This is a long posthumous release of Sam Cooke playing live sometime in the 50s, I believe. 60s maybe. At the Harlem Square Club in Miami. And I love Sam Cooke. You know, he's a classic soul singer, did a lot of soul and gospel stuff. Cupid, total hit. I mean, beautiful voice in the guy. You can't go wrong with really any of his stuff. Twisting the Night Away. It's just classic 50s, 60s soul stuff. But this record is really raw. In the notes here, it said it was recorded on a 3-track. And Sam's singing very well, like everything in key and perfect and great. But there's just a little bit of sandpaper, a little bit of grit to his voice that you don't hear on his recordings on anything else. And everything's a little bit faster, a little bit more up tempo. You could feel the energy in the fucking room. And I really recommend this to everybody. It's my favorite Sam Cooke recording. Just has like a vibe that nothing else, not even the other live record that he did, has. It's just real hot, real going for it, you know. Then I'd be remiss not to mention No Sleep Till Hammersmith by Motorhead. Probably their most well-known, well-regarded live record, which I don't know when this came out. 81, except for Iron Horse, that was recorded in 80. So different sessions from Hammersmith, it looks like. I used to crack up over the stage banter before, I believe it's We Are the Road Crew, which is a great version of We Are the Road Crew. You know, everything on this almost feels twice as fast, which is something I like about a lot of live records, especially Motorhead live. But before We Are the Road Crew, he dedicates the song to Little Filbert. And I don't know what Little Filbert's doing now, but I hope he appreciates it. Yeah, just face-ripping fucking Motorhead stuff. My personal favorite, which sadly I don't own anymore, I might have just a cassette with no case, is No Sleep at All by Motorhead. That captures like a lot of the rock and roll and Orgasmatron stuff, and it's all hyper fast. He must have been on a lot of good crank when he recorded it. Sounds fucking great. And this is one for stage banter here. This is the H100s from Cleveland, which they were a hardcore punk band that were around for a few years in the late 90s. They did about 3 7-inches, 3 singles, 3 EPs, and called it a day. Real confrontational live band. They went on to morph into Nine Shocks Terror. This is a limited live LP that didn't see the light of day until like 15 years after they broke up. So sometime early 2000s this came out. And I was just spinning it again to refamiliarize myself with it. And the heckling that Tony Erba, the bassist, is doling out to the crowd is some of the best fucking wrestling promo / stand-up material you'll ever hear. Lots of berating skinheads in the audience, basically trying to get beat up, it sounded like. This show, I mean, this band is like fast, chaotic, surprisingly tight, but real, like, kind of noisy. A lot of influence from Japanese hardcore and like snotty early 80s US punk hardcore stuff, that kind of stuff. This show was with 25 to Life, One Life Crew, and Integrity. So you can imagine kind of how there was a little bit of a one thing is not like the other kind of deal going on with this band. And they are really doing their best to incite the crowd. It's really fun. It's a really fun listen. Normally I don't like it when people talk between songs too much, but they really make it worth your while on this. You get your bang for your buck. And this is one that some people really don't like. I get why, because I've heard live recordings that are far superior, but I have a strong sentimental attachment to Live at Last by Black Sabbath. This is one of those deals where I don't know if the band was even aware that this was out for a long time. I think that's the story with it. It's a pretty raw, pretty noisy live record from Sabbath. Looks like, first 4 albums era. I don't see anything off of Never Say Die or Technical Ecstasy on it, so, probably sometime around 76. I'm just kind of guessing here. But I used to have this on tape. This was a drugstore special for a long time. You could find it at all kinds of like Kmart's and stuff like that for like $3. And I like the guitar tone. I like the bass on it. It sounds massive. The playing's a little sloppy. Ozzy's definitely yelling "We love you" over and over again. The crowd did not have to wonder whether or not Ozzy loved them, because he reminded them all the time. It's got some good jamming on it. I particularly like, let's see, Cornucopia and Snowblind on it are really good. The live version of Children of the Grave is awesome. I know in the middle of one of these they break into Supernaut and they do kind of a medley thing, but I can't remember what song now, because even though I've listened to this hundreds of times, I haven't listened to it in about at least 5 years, but it fucking rules. And another one from my youth, you may not know this about me because I don't know if I've really talked about it, but between 6th and 7th grade, AC/DC was my favorite band, which was weird because I went on this odd trajectory of buying everything I could and find and afford by AC/DC, all the Bon Scott stuff. I even had like Fly on the Wall and Blow Up Your Video, you know, stuff that I don't remember as being that great. Being obsessed with AC/DC by the beginning of that year and by the end of 7th grade, which for me was 1990, being into Sepultura and listening to the Grind Crusher comp and stuff like that, it was a really dramatic shift in listening. But I still have a special spot in my heart for Bon Scott era AC/DC, Back in Black too, a few other things here and there. Razor's Edge is pretty good, and this is just a killer rock and roll live record. The opening riff for Riff Raff is just a total blow your hair back, give you a black eye, 1-2 punch kind of deal. The Whole Lot of Rosie for the longest time was one of my favorite songs. In a lot of ways, it was one of the more extreme things that I heard just because it was so hard hitting, even though I was already listening to thrash by the point of me getting this. Let There Be Rock, Rocker. I think the only one I can do without is the Jack. I'm just not into those kind of slow, bluesy kind of songs, especially because this is like another thinly veiled reference to something sexual kind of AC/DC song, which gets an eye roll from me nowadays. Like, oh, it's about VD, isn't that funny? It's like losing a card game. Great. But also a big attraction for me was the cover art. I mean, I always had a probably unhealthy obsession with gore as a kid, and I mean, this is a pretty big like arena rock, like even then was getting to be kind of a dad rock band, and here's the schoolboy guitarist impaled on his own guitar with blood and everything. I fucking love that, and it probably was influential to me to get into stuff that was equally as macabre. You know, I had the shirt back then of that, and I felt like such a badass that I got away with wearing it because my parents didn't care. So, you know, great record. So that's it. That's my live record picks for right now, as well as Gig by Circle Jerks and Live at CBGB's by AF, but I talked about those enough, so go back and watch that video if you want. I'll link it. Why not? I'll link it. All right. You guys have a good one. I'll be back soon.